guys, I'm Christina Sheree. If you're new, welcome to my channel. Why don't you go ahead and take a quick second, just hit that subscribe button. I mean, you know, why not? And if you're returning, it's always good to see you. So today I really wanted to compare a couple of recent purchases of mine. These are two really hot collections that a lot of people are buying either separately and I'm assuming probably together, and I really just wanted to look at the overall value and quality of both together. So what am I talking about? Well, I'm diving into the Fenty Snap palettes versus the Juvia's Place minis. And we're just going to really look at both of these collections and see the color stories, the, portability of them, the saturation, just all of it. So let's just kind of get going. So let's start with the price. So with Juvia's Place, you get 6 shadows for $13.99. And with Fenty, you get 6 shadows for $25 each. Now you do save a little bit when you get 2, because when you get 2, you save $5. So instead of 50, it's 45. But if you're just looking at them individually, this one is 25 and this one is $13.99. Now when you're looking at the weight and the amount of shadow that you're going to get with the Fenty, let's turn it this way, sorry. With the Fenty palette, you're getting 6 grams of product for the entire palette, and it's 1 gram per, I can't talk, it's 1 gram per pan. And with Juvia's Place, what you're getting is 13.2 grams of product for the entire palette. So this is about 0.035 ounces, and this is 0.47 ounces. This is per shadow, and this is for the entire palette. But I mean, you get the idea. Now, when you're looking at Juvia's Place, you get, let's see, let me pull them all together for you. So if you were to get the Juvia's Place collection, what you have is 4 different, trying to pull them out. You get 4 different options. So they have the berries, the chocolate, the nudes, and the violet. So this collection comes with 4. With Fenty, you get 8 different options. So you definitely have more options, and each of the palettes are 6 shadows each. But if you don't really need the other colors and like the other colors, it's kind of, completely up to you there. Now, when it comes to portability, Juvia's Place is literally twice the size. So this one, definitely more portable. You can stick it in your pocket, you can stick it in your makeup bag. This one you can stick in your pocket, but I mean, why would you do that? Now the Juvia's Place is cardboard. It does have a magnetic closure, so don't have to worry about much there. And the Fenty is actually a hard plastic. One of the convenience factors is these snap together to make 2 palettes for the same size, just a little thicker. Juvia's Place doesn't have that. And this has kind of a clasp closure. So this is definitely more durable. This is probably more environmentally sound, just so you know. So that's the basic specs of both of these collections. Let's actually dive into the shadows and the pigmentation, and let's look at each one side by side. So Fenty does have a palette that kind of really relates closely to each of the Juvia's Place, so I'm going to look at those and we'll go through the swatches. Okay, so I'm going to dive into the Fenty palette Rose, which is the number 4, and the Juvia's Place Berries. I'll start with the colors that look most similar, and then the ones that don't have kind of a dupe for each other will just be after. Okay, so Juvia's Place doesn't actually have names for their shades, so I'm just going to go side by side. So the first in every one is Juvia's Place. So this is Juvia's Place, and this is the closest match in the Fenty palette. As you can see, well, hopefully you can see, they're about the same as far as saturation. I'd say Juvia's Place is a little bit more saturated, but the colors aren't completely the same. And then you have a Juvia's Place here, and then here's the Fenty. These two are closer, so Juvia's Place which is a lot more saturated. It's very pigmented. And then here's Fenty. And then these three are Juvia's Place. There's a little splotchy with these. And then these three are Fenty. So these don't have dupes for each other. But the palettes are very, very, very similar. I mean, you could get away with just... The benefit of the Juvia's Place is that all of them are really very saturated and deep. Now, the benefit of getting this version with Fenty is that you do have some pretty saturated colors, but then you also have a nice range of midtones here in the same palette. So again, looking at these two palettes side by side, you definitely have some very, very pigmented shades in the Juvia's Place, and they're really pretty bold. And then you have a bit more range in the Fenty here, but they're not as pigmented when you swatch them, or I've actually used both, so you definitely get more of an instant payoff with the Juvia's Place, and you definitely have to, this Fenty ones are buildable. I mean, they're not that pow right away, but you do get some saturation. It's not as close to the Juvia's. Juvia's is definitely super pigmented out the gate, and they stay that way. So these are the two together. This is the Berries palette, and this is number 4 in the Fenty Snap, and the color palette is called Rose. Jump into the next one. So next up we have Juvia's Place Violets and Fenty Cool Neutrals. So these two next to each other. I'm going to jump in and do swatches. Okay, so looking at these two palettes together, there really is only one shade that is close to each other. So this is Juvia's Place here, which is much deeper, and then this one is the Fenty. Now these next 4 here are Juvia's Place. So you have this one here, here. Did I say 4? Sorry, the next 5. So these 5 here are all Juvia's Place, and then these 5 here are all Fenty. Now the Juvia's Place palette is a violets palette, so that makes sense as to why you have all of, well, it's kind of a neutralish lilac here, but that makes sense as to why you have all of these ranges of purples in this one here. And the Fenty one is considered a cool neutral, so you have a bit more of a range. It's not a violet palette, clearly, but this would be both of the palettes next to each other. So it's really a different vibe. I mean, this is a true cool neutrals palette, whereas this is definitely a violet palette. So again, there's really only one shade that would be similar. So these are the two palettes side by side again. I would say if you're really considering one of these, I mean, these are very different vibes. You could go for either one of them and have a completely different look. If you really love purples, no brainer. If you like purple, but you kind of like a bit more of a cool color story, then this one. Okay, so next up with Juvia's Place we have the Nudes palette, and with Fenty Snap palettes we have True Neutrals. So these are the two. These seem to be much closer if you're just going like this, but let me go ahead and swatch these two. Okay, so when looking at the Juvia's Place Nudes palette and the Fenty Snap True Neutrals, there's really only one color that's pretty similar. If you look at these next 5, there is a color here, believe it or not. It's just so close to my skin tone you can't see it. So this one, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, those are Juvia's Place, which is a completely different vibe than those 4. So you're really kind of looking at preference there. I know that when it comes to a neutrals palette, if I'm looking for a travel one for my skin tone, I would definitely pick the Fenty one because there's more of a range for my skin tone. There's something to deepen it up. There's the transition. This is pretty light, but I could use it as a brow bone highlight. Whereas these here, this is really going to look ashy on me, and this one doesn't show up like at all. But again, that's for my skin tone. It really just depends on what you're looking for. These are very, very different vibes here. I would go for the Fenty just based on my skin tone and having range. Now the last 2 palettes, one from each, aren't very, very similar, but I would say they're in the same color family. So this would just probably give you them side by side just to kind of get a comparison. So we have the Juvia's Place Chocolate palette and the Fenty Deep Neutrals. So these together, this is definitely way more basic browns. You got a little bit of range there, and this is going to be your warmer palette. So I'll swatch them next to each other just so that you can see them, but I'm not expecting there to be any dupes for each other for these. Okay, so as you can see, very different palettes. You have true beautiful browns in this palette here, and you have some really nice copper and rust colors mixed with browns in this one. So these are the two side by side, and the only thing I would say about this is, I mean, if you're looking for a travel neutrals palette, you could do both. But to be truthful, I'm sure we all have a ton of neutral palettes and a ton of warm palettes, so it really would just boil down to how much you really want that portability factor, and then price, size. But these are very different palettes. Nice, but very different palettes. Okay, so for my final thoughts, I really think it just boils down to your own preference. I mean, when it comes to price, Juvia's Place has it. When it comes to immediate pigmentation and saturation, Juvia's Place has it. When it comes to range of the collection as a whole, I just picked out 4 out of 8, but when it comes to range of the collection as a whole, you definitely have more options with the Fenty palette, and they're pretty creative in their curation of the colors there. And then it's also smaller. It really is portable, but it's also a lot more money. So, I mean, I really think it comes down to how much you want that smaller palette versus maybe a slightly bigger palette that you already have in your collection, but you already have it. I don't think you can go wrong with either one. I mean, I think it's really important to note that if you're looking for immediate payoff, Juvia's Place has it. If you're looking for range of colors and you have to build it up some more or put in the work a little bit more, but they are blendable, then the Fenty one has it. So I really just, it depends on you, but I really hope that this video gave you some information, some useful information, or at least just the visual of seeing them next to each other, just to help you make a decision if you're on the fence about the Juvia's Place minis, or on the fence about the Fenty, or maybe you have a couple of Juvia's Place and you're thinking about a couple of the Fenty. Whatever you want to put together with that one, hopefully this video gave you a little bit more information to help you make your decision. So thank you for spending some time with me. I really hope you have a wonderful morning, noon, or night, whatever time it is, wherever you are. Oh, and popping this up, please go ahead and check me out once this video is over. I won't give you the whole thing, but I love Instagram, building a channel here, building a following there and here. So I'd love it if you check me out, maybe even follow. Thank you guys. Have a good day.